This is your place for all things Grand Rapids Griffins and all things Toledo Walleye. This is the Hockeytown West podcast with your host, Brandon Cook and Nick Harrington.
And welcome back to another episode of the Hockeytown West podcast, your source for everything Grand Rapids Griffins and Toledo Walleye hockey. I am one of your hosts, Brandon.
I'm Nick. I'm out of the penalty box.
And I'm Travis.
Welcome back, Nick. It is good to have all three of us back on the show together. It is, I give a lot of credit to Travis for carrying the last few episodes because it definitely wasn't me. But it is good to have you back. How was your trip, man? How are you feeling? Are you happy to be back? Or are you sad?
Mixed emotions. Glass box of emotions is how I feel.
That's normal.
Did you eat all the candy?
No. So we bought $800 worth of candy, and which converts to like $45 US. I did not eat all of it, but I brought it back for my nephew, so that was cool. And I still have I don't know if I have any left. I have a few pieces. But
when you sent that text, I 100% thought you meant you spent $800 US on candy down there, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Whereas
I could see you doing it.
Yeah, that would have been more than the flight.
I think we were recording when he sent that text.
We were, and it definitely was brought up in the Patreon cut before we re-recorded or started recording again. Yeah, I don't know. We saw that though, and I wouldn't have put it past you to drop 800 on candy, but it is good to have you back, buddy. I hope you had a good time. I'm sure we'll have a Patreon episode where we talk all about your trip and get all the stories, especially you rocking Griffins and Red Wings jerseys on your little tourist trips around Mexico there. That was cool. I'm glad you busted out the Los Griffins one while you're down there. That's a cool. Hopefully you got some compliments on it while you were there.
They definitely so they were already looking at me funny. They looked at me even more funny when I put the jerseys on. Yeah. And I didn't post. There's one still to post. Wait for a good time to post it.
All right. Well, Trav, man, how are you doing today? It was great seeing you yesterday in Kalamazoo. I always love getting to go to games with you and doing all of our fun stuff with the Walleye, but how are you after a nice drive back home?
The drive went quick. I called Nick on the way home, check in with him, see how he was doing. I talked to my dad, talked to my buddy Brian. So, the drive went fast when you're on the phone with people. So, but, I slept in a little bit today and did some stuff around the house, picked up my deer. So
saw that you finally got one. You didn't hit a tree. Congratulations.
Yep, thanks. But other than that, just stuff around the house, cleaning, stuff like that.
Back to work tomorrow, eh?
Yeah, finally.
Well, everyone, welcome back to another episode. Like we said, this episode we are recapping the last two Griffins games that have happened. One of those was the school day game in Iowa last week, and then, of course, in Rockford last week. This was a good little ending of a road trip for the Grand Rapids Griffins. It's good to have them coming back home this week. Thank God I've missed being in Van Andel Arena. But let's dive into these games here. We're just going to go game by game. We're going to give you the rundown of the game, talk about some of the guys from the game. Then after the ad break, we'll recap the next game and any other stuff. Before we dive into that, though, any news that we have to share is going to be, well, it's all goalie related, and it all makes this goalie carousel continue to go around. So we talk in one game here. Ville Husso was a starter in a Griffins game. He was back from injury. That was a really positive thing to see. And then he was immediately called up to Detroit as the flu bug has hit the goalie room in Detroit. From what it sounds like, we've heard flu bug, we've heard injury. We'll just say he got called up and we really don't officially know why. And that's kind of how everything goes when it comes to talking about this stuff. And then the other update today that's confused Travis more than anybody else in this group here is that Jan Bednar was called up by Grand Rapids from Toledo, and Gage Alexander was then sent down to Toledo. The only thing that makes sense in my head with this is that Jan Bednar played last night for Toledo. Toledo also has a school day game this week, the same exact time the Griffins do. So Bednar will be the backup. He gets some rest. Gylander didn't play on Saturday, so he'll probably be the starter. He didn't play Sunday. He'll be the starter in Toledo on Wednesday, and then we'll probably see the goalie carousel continue to go around unless Gage Alexander is finally going to be given a game with Toledo. Toledo has a crazy schedule. What is it, Trav? 6 and 9 days right now?
Yeah, that's what Pat told us, and I completely bombed the fact that we play Indy on Wednesday, so that was fun.
That's okay. We've all bombed things in post-game interviews. Don't worry. It's fine. Me worse than anybody else. So,
At least you got your audio.
That's true.
I didn't even get audio on mine.
I forgot about that. So yeah, we've all bombed something, so it's okay, Trav. But yeah, the goalie carousel continues to go round. We don't really understand it. Who knows what's happening? All I can assume is that this is happening. They plan on Billy Huso probably being back in Grand Rapids by Friday, and everything will go back to the way it was before. But at this point, who knows? We're not going to speculate. There's a trade coming. I'm just kidding. We have no clue. Outside of that, there was some other returns for the Griffins on the injury side of things as well. Hunter Johannes was back in the lineup wearing a full cage, of course, so we know it was definitely an injury around his nose or jaw or something like that from getting jumped in Hartford. I'll continue to call it getting jumped because that's exactly what it was. And outside of that, you've seen a couple other guys come back too. We are still missing William Vollinder, Carter Mazer, Tim Gettinger, and of course Marco Casper is still in Detroit. We've said he's not coming back, and that's pretty much guaranteed he's not coming back at this point. But that does kind of wrap up the injury roundup for the team here. Call-ups from Toledo that we still have are obviously Jan Bednar and Gabriel Seeger. And those are the two that we have still at this point. And at least Toledo's got Carson Bantle back, and he's made an immediate impact in that lineup as well. But we'll talk more about him and all of that on our Toledo Walleye episode this week. So to jump into these games here, we'll start with the one in Iowa where the Griffins got to play a nice early morning game. Nick got to come back from Mexico and immediately cover a game on Twitter because of my day job. So thank you, Nick, for doing that. And what a first game to come back to against the Iowa Wild here. Griffins win this one 5-2. And I had to remind myself it was a school game when I saw the attendance for this game at 9,600 in Iowa. I was like, oh, that's right. It's a bunch of kids. So, yeah, they usually have good attendance turnouts for those. In this game, Billy Huso gets to start up against Jesper Wallstedt, who is back with the Iowa Wild playing games with them again. Scoring goes as followed in this one. There was no scoring in the first period. Griffins get outshot by Iowa in this one, 11-2. Nick, before I even dive into the next period, 2 shots on goal from Grand Rapids. What was happening there in the first?
Yeah, so usually these school day games, you're kind of like, they're kind of asleep, right? Like this is kind of how it was. And if you're a Detroit fan, ice hockey fan, you're pretty much used to them getting outshot.
That's cold. That's cold, man.
it's just and like the Griffins haven't outshot a single opponent in any of these games up until even the one we talk about later.
Yeah, yep, I know. That hasn't happened yet this season, and they've managed to win a bunch of them. That's all that matters to us. Yes. But like in this first period, was Billy Huso just standing on his head at this point, or was it low danger shots?
It was just low danger. It was a lot of like clogging up the neutral zone. Classic Ben Simon.
That's, yep. And for those that don't know, the Griffins' former head coach, Ben Simon, is Iowa Wild's assistant coach. So, yep, dump and chase, clogging up the neutral zone. That's about it. But getting to the second period here, that's where the scoring finally begins. And first one for the Griffins is a big one. Jacob Raklowski gets his first as a Griffin from Amadeus Lombardi and Shai Bulliam. It was great to see Raklowski get that goal. We've been talking about him the past couple episodes, seeing him get more and more comfortable with this team. And it's just fantastic to see him finally find the back of the net. Of course, it was from Ammo too. The chemistry between those two so far this season is really clicking, and I'm really liking what I'm seeing. Nick, anything specific that you saw with this goal that was impressive?
I love the setup by Amadeus Lombardi on this. Like, he's down in the corner, he gets it, and he just does this like little deke, and then passes it over to Raklowski, who's got a wide open net on Jesper Wallstedt. So from the sounds of it, if I can remember correctly from my trip in Mexico, it was kind of like the reverse of what Raklowski did with Ammo a couple days before. So it's just him paying it back to him. I mean, it was just a beautiful goal, little deke, little goal. Just happy for him too. I mean, I love the chemistry that's starting there. I'm just hoping that they can finally get the big guy going now on that side too. So
yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about that here. That move by Ammo to lead to this goal was sick. I think that's what overshadowed the entire goal entirely. But again, seeing Raklowski find the back of the net is huge. That's not the only scoring in the second period, though. Iowa does get on the board a few minutes later there. Merritt gets his third of the season. Grand Rapids comes back at the 15-minute, 16-second mark, and Alexander Doucette gets his first of the season. We've kind of also been waiting for that one, and this was a shorthanded goal, assisted by Nate Danielson and Josiah Didier. And again, it's just good to see Deuce get going, too, at this point. You know, he's been playing hard. He's playing those bottom bottom 6 minutes most of the fourth line this season. And we've talked, his board battles and his strength really shows on the ice, but he doesn't get really the opportunities to score. So anytime Deuce is scoring, we're a happy group of guys right here. I know, Trav, you've seen a lot of Doucette scoring in your time with Toledo, but anything from this goal that stood out for you, especially being a shorty?
The entire play Nate Danielson made to set this play up. Like, this was all Nate Danielson. I think the puck just hit Doucette and went in.
Yep.
I mean, they all count the same. They don't ask how, they ask how many. But ultimately, the play that Nate made, like, I was reading his his draft profile on Elite Prospects today when I was recapping everything, and it talks about a lot of his offensive skill comes off the rush, and he came down and just like went right through the defender and threw it out front, made a nice play, and it just happened to hit Doucette and went in. But if you can get a chance to go back and watch it, I mean, that was a hell of a play.
Yeah, no, it really was.
It's like ninth, like that's okay. There's the 9th overall pick coming out of him right there. That kind of a
yeah.
play.
That's what we've kind of been waiting for, right? We haven't seen too much of it yet, and it comes out shorthanded too, which is a real big boost for this team that can't score on the power play right now, which we'll definitely be talking about in this episode. But that wasn't all the scoring in the second. The second period was a wild one in this game. You got Iowa coming back 2 minutes later there. Height gets his 5th of the season on the power play for Iowa. That's not what you want to see with the penalty kill being as good as it's been, but hey, you can't stop them all, right? But of course, Grand Rapids did have to answer to that right away. 18-minute, 40-second mark, literally just over a minute later. Sheldon Dries gets his 3rd of the season from Dominik Shine and another shorthanded goal. Nick, explain to me here, because we can't score on the power play, but we go down a guy and all of a sudden we're the best team in the league.
So the stat on this is the Griffins scored 2 shorthanded goals, which is the last time they were to score 2 shorthanded goals was like 72 games in between. And they did it within a minute and 20 seconds or something like that. Dom Shine, the leader in points right now for the Griffins, hustles just like as before I was leaving Mexico. I'm just like, at this point, like their penalty kill has been so good, they're gonna get a shorthanded at some point. And you know who gives up the most shorthanded goals? Iowa. So Shine literally just takes this puck. He just hustles. He takes this puck. He drives it all the way down, and then he sets up Sheldon Dries puts it in. I mean, it's a beautiful goal. It's a hustle play, and it's just following up. I mean, it's just gritty,
We do like grit around here.
Oh, what was that, Trev?
It probably shouldn't have went in. Like, where he scored from, that should not go in the net. Like, I'm not gonna lie, that should be stopped.
Yeah, it was kind of a fluky goal. I'm just kind of watching it as it goes through again on my iPad. But yeah,
well, like
it was,
Shine drove the net, and nobody picked up Dries, and it just sat there on the side of the crease, and I think it looked like he banked it in almost off of Wallstead.
It's one of those goals Wallsted's going to want back.
Yeah.
When you talk about goals like that with goalies, especially him, he's going to want that one back. But heck, we'll take those all day long. And you just got to love what Shine's doing on this team so far this season. Yeah. It's been absolutely incredible. We'll talk about him more in a second here. But that's not all the scoring in the game. Obviously, Joe Snively in the 3rd period gets his 2nd of the season unassisted. And we get one more goal as well. Cross Hannes gets his 3rd of the season. We're starting to see him get more and more consistent here. We're loving that. Assisted by Austin Watson and Elmer Soderblom. Another point for Elmer. It is just a secondary assist again, but we don't ask how. We just ask how many. And it's good to see him getting more and more points on the board as of recently. But I know you have some thoughts on this cross goal, Trav. What do you got for me here?
So essentially, like, I'd said just before we started recording, like, it doesn't count as a power play goal, but essentially it kind of is a power play goal because they scored like a second after the power play expired. A lot of teams would kind of net that as a power play goal, but just the simplicity of it. Like we've talked about a lot, and I've said a lot, like, look, puck's on net, crash to net. Elmer shoots it he was in the face-off dot in the circle, and a big juicy rebound comes out, and there's 2 Griffins standing in front of the net. Like, they had him stacked right in front of the goaltender. It goes right to cross, and he buries it. Like, this is where I think the power play needs to simplify. Less is sometimes more. Sometimes you just got to get more shots on net and crash the net for rebounds. Like we've said for weeks now, like, you need some bounces to go your way, and the only way you're going to generate bounces are shoot the puck and go to the net.
Yeah.
What I want to say on this too is like we pounded the table all last year. Is the power play looked so good when it started from behind the net, and that's exactly where this play started. Was down low behind the net. It got worked back out to the front, and then crossing it up, burying it. Like that's what you want to see. And it was literally like 1 second left in the goal or on the power play for them. So that's why, like, I agree with you, Travis. Like it should count as a power play goal right there. Wasn't with the stats weren't as bad as what it looks like.
With our lack of power play goals, I'll take it. I will say that is a power play goal, but the stat sheet won't show it. But sure, we got a power play goal on this trip. I'll take that all day because we don't get too many of them. But that does round up the scoring in this again. The Griffins win this one 5-2. Ville Husso stops 37 of 39 at the other end. Jesper Wallstedt doesn't have his best day, stopping 16 of 21. I mean, Griffins get outshot 39-21 in this game, go 0 for 4 on the power play or 1 for 4 if we call it that. And the penalty kill goes 6 for 7 here. A little rough and tough game for a school day game, including Austin Watson dropping the gloves in this game as well. In front of the kids, Austin, come on, man. No, those are the best. Those fights on the school day games will always be the best fights for me because those kids go absolutely insane. It doesn't matter what team wins the fight. They go insane either way. It always makes it more fun. But that does wrap up all the stats that are important from this one. Let's talk about some of the guys, right? We're going to start with the first goal scorer, Ruklavsky here. We've been talking more and more about him as the season's gone on, and we wondered how quickly he would adjust to the North American ice. I know that's the biggest conversation whenever you get a guy in the AHL from Europe, right? And we said early in the season, I think December, you'll start to January, you'll start seeing him pick it up. This kid's picked it up really quick. I fully believe Detroit's kind of found a gem here that could turn into something really special. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on that statement.
It's going to take a little bit of time, right, to get used to everything. I think they put him in they're utilizing him in the right role. They've got him with Amadeus. Amadeus is so smart. His hockey IQ's there. Being able to set up guys like he has done last year and during his time at Flint. Like that's the setup guy right there. And Ruklavsky's he's a goal scorer. Like that's what he was signed for. He led. I'm sure Travis is going to go over the stats here when he gets his turn. His goals over in the other league, the Europe League. But he's coming on to it. I like the fact too that they've kept him with Amadeus to build that chemistry, to get that going, to get the momentum, to keep the momentum going. I think it's only a matter of time till he starts putting the puck in the net a little bit more. And I don't know if he makes it to Detroit. I think that's gonna be. I don't know. I think that's too far of a reach there. That's just my opinion.
I mean, it's still very early on in his time, right? He's a young kid. He's got a while to go before that happens. But at the same time, it's finding a diamond in the rough here, where you're taking a flyer on a kid, going, "All right, yep, we're gonna sign him and see what happens here." And 2 points in the last 3 games, sure, that's just a small sample size to pull from, but we're starting to see consistency from him. But the part of his game I like the most is, one, he plays a physical, rough and tough game. He's really good at playing the body. He's really good at winning board battles, but his passing, because of the chemistry he's already developed on the line he's on, and since he's been playing with the same 3 guys basically all season, his passing is so crisp. I don't see him rarely not make a tape-to-tape pass. And it's something that if you're a Griffins fan for a while now, you know that passing was one of the most painful things we've ever watched a couple seasons ago. And seeing guys come in that can do passing like this consistently with the guys he's playing with, it's a really bright spot to look at for the future of what he's going to be able to bring to this team.
Speaking of a couple of years ago, would you compare him more to like Pontus Andreasen?
Yes, 100%.
Just more physical is probably of what I would see with him. Is like he's got the shot. He's got a crazy good shot, and I feel like Pontus just didn't get enough opportunity, and he wasn't in a good system where he was. Where now you bring Ruklavsky in, and he's got a good system. He's got a good support system here. On the coaching side, and then also on the player side too, with having better talent around him to be able to put him in better positions. So I think that is going to be you're going to see kind of the same point totals is what I'm hoping for out of this guy.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. He's Pontus with more of a physical side, and I still look back and go, man, if Pontus would have stayed around for one more year and joined this system, this coaching staff, I think we'd see a completely different player. And he was frustrated here. And it is a guy that I'm like, dang, I do miss him. I liked him. I like the energy he brought to the game. But Rokowski does the exact same thing, and he does it really well. Trav, what are your thoughts on Jacob?
It's just a solid player. I mean, you can see like his playmaking ability. You've seen it with the pass to ammo last week or in the game prior to this one. I think it was against Cleveland. And then today, like the net front presence to just take the pass from ammo and kind of just get it on net, redirect it on net was almost like just a nice little play. Like, you see the skills there, and it's just a matter of him like picking it up at a point where he can find that consistency, and he's starting to find it. I think that's only going to help him. He does have a good shot. He had 26 goals last year, so hopefully you can see him continue to shoot the puck maybe a little bit more. Obviously, he's got a scoring threat when he shoots the puck, so just kind of continue to grow. I think, like you said, Nick, maybe around Christmas time you start to see it, but you're starting to see it in little spurts now, and if they can keep him and Ammo together, I think that's a good pair.
Yeah, and I pulled up Pontus's stats when he was here with us. It was 12 goals, 13 assists. He was 25 points. So I mean,
How many games did he play though?
63. So I mean, if you get
Okay.
something close, maybe a little bit more. He was a minus 20, but I think everybody on the team was that year. So I mean,
Yeah.
I think
So
if we see something close, maybe like add 10 goals, add 10 assists, you're probably right around there for.
He does
Rokowski.
that. I'm cheering, bro.
Yeah,
That's huge.
Rajkowski's projected 6 goals, 13 assists, 19 points in 71 games right now.
So bottom floor is Pontus, and higher is what he's. Well, no,
Capable of.
he's right there with what he's on pace with what Pontus did.
And I think he'll exceed that, especially as he gets more comfortable. But again, Pontus's adjustment time, we didn't start to see him really pop off till about the last quarter of the season with the Griffins, and he kind of just put it all out there. I think he knew what he was trying to do, probably leave, and he left before the season ended. But he really turned it on there near the end, and seeing what Rokowski's been able to do already as he gets more and more comfortable, especially when he finds his time and space to use his shot. That's the hardest thing with this adjustment is time and space, right? So as soon as he gets more comfortable with the time and space he has to get that wicked shot off, I think you'll start to see more and more production. And I think we'll be talking about him a lot more as this season goes on. But the next guy I want to pivot to, if you gave out a 12-game MVP, which they don't give that out, but I'll give it out today, is Dom Shine. This guy's doing literally everything on this team right now. He's an incredible penalty killer. He's producing offense at a rate I have not seen him produce yet. Trav, you'll have to give me his projections according to Elite Prospects over there for this season. But currently sitting 12 games in and 11 points, almost point per game so far this season. He's a +3 with 11 penalty minutes, still out there doing his thing, right? But again, he's just been the most consistent piece on this team. I'd have to go back and look at every score sheet to see what games he's been left off the score sheet on, but I'm going to assume it's a game we didn't score a goal or we only scored one. Like, if we're scoring more than one goal, Dom Shine's on the score sheet at this point, I believe. And he's just playing the best hockey I've ever seen him play right now. And it finally feels like the Griffins have their little Brandon Hawkins down here, which is funny because they're good buddies. But at the same time, like, we've got a guy who's just been around this team his entire pro life. Like, that's the only team he's played for on the pro side, and he's been here for years. And he's just getting better and better and better with every season. He finished 5th in points on this team last season, which shocked a lot of people, and continues to be one of, if not the best Griffins players game to game right now.
I mean, I think the biggest thing that opened it up for him was Mazur going out, because he started the season on the third line with Danielson and Cross Hannes. And then since Mazur's been out, he's been the guy replacing him. He's been up there on the first line with Snively and Dries since. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like last year, you saw him, he started out on the 4th, started seeing him on the 3rd. And I think near the end of the season, you kind of saw him move up to the second line, second and third. He was getting a little bit more play time. I think it was a little bit of an adjustment period between him and Waddy and the system and everything else. But it's crazy to see the points that he's putting up. I haven't seen this in 3 years with him.
I wouldn't say it's been an adjustment period for that. He started producing as soon as Waddy's system got here, right? Like today we finished fifth on the team last year in Waddy's first year. But you bring up the point where he was playing buried there, kind of on the third line. I shouldn't say buried, but he still had 4 points in 3 games before Mazur went out. Like that's the even crazier part. And he's just continued to produce at every line. Which we talked when we talked line predictions early in the season. We're like looking at these Griffins lines. The third line could be the first line, right? The depth on the team was really, really good. And Dom Shine is one of the key depth pieces on this team that can produce in any situation. You put him fourth line, he's still going to probably be half a point per game. And that's just insane to think about.
I think he just started slow last year, and like you've kind of saw that the last few years. Even with Dog, when we talked with Dog, he's like, he just starts so slow. He's like, when are you going to turn it on, or we're going to send you to Toledo? Is what he said to us, and we're like, oh yeah. And then this year, he's just like fired out of a cannon. Like I don't know what he's doing, but whatever it is, keep up because we're probably going to be asking for you after the game, one of these next few ones.
I have a feeling pretty soon here. But yeah. Trav, were you able to find a projection for Dom Shine there for me?
24 goals, 42 assists, 66 points, 72 games played.
What does that stack up for career? What's that stack up for his career? That'd
be a career year by 33 points.
Yeah, last year was a career high 33 points for him. He had 25 points the year before, 32 the year before that, and he's on pace to double last year.
Yeah. No, he's been really good for him. Like you said, the ability to play up and down the lineup. He's kind of like that just hard hat, go to work type of guy. And now he's playing with some guys that, at this level have produced pretty well with Dries and Snively. So I think, he can just go play. Like he's that like energizer bunny too. Like, you just see like he's not scared to muck it up. He'll play that physical brand. He can score goals. He can chip in offensively. Just a good two-way player. Like you said, Mazur going out definitely helps. But you know what? When you're given an opportunity, if you can take the most of it, that's ultimately what matters, and he's done that.
And like losing Mazur, he's producing what you'd kind of expect Mazur to be producing right now at the same point level. And you can't ask for much more than that from a veteran player. You look at the Griffins team last year, and some of our veteran players that produced the season prior when the team was just really bad, they were kind of invisible out there. You look at L'Esperance had like a 30-point drop off from the previous season, and you're like, whoa, what happened here? And you look at the roster so far this season, and all the veteran players that we expected to produce are producing, and they're producing consistently. Dom Shine is exceeding expectations right now. And do I expect him to hit 66 points this season? No, I don't. But if he does, holy crap, what a great year for Grand Rapids. Because if he does that and everybody else produces what they're expected to, this is a fantastic year for the team in general and in terms of offense, but he also just brings that defensive game, especially on the penalty kill. He's easily one of the best penalty killers in the American Hockey League. Like, there's not many people that can go out there and eat up those valuable minutes like he does. But enough with Dom Shine's flowers there. I think that might be enough for this episode. Again, he's definitely a guy we're going to want to talk to post-game here pretty soon, as long as he keeps producing, as well as he keeps producing like this. But next guy I got to talk about here, it's a guy that I owe an apology to for while Nick was out. We forgot to mention a key piece of news with this Grand Rapids Griffins team, and there was a young player that was signed that we didn't talk about at all, and it was Andre Betcher. We didn't mention his signing on this team. We didn't mention any details of it in our recordings. So our apologies to him and everyone else for not sharing that news. But Andre Betcher was a draft pick that we were kind of hoping to see end up in Grand Rapids here. Then there was an injury that we didn't know many details on around the time of training camp and all that fun stuff. And then he kind of just went MIA. We didn't really know what the deal was. Detroit didn't sign him to an ELC or anything, but the Griffins signed him to a tryout. And he's only played a couple games so far. But I just wanted to make sure we mentioned him. And one I noticed in this game too, he seems pretty comfortable on that fourth line where he's playing right now as he's adjusting. Has he produced anything yet? No, he is not. He's a -2 so far in the games he's played. That's the only stat line he has. But at the same time, he's kind of being asked a lot right now to jump into, one, a center role on this team, two, to go out there and fill a lot of gaps with the guys we were missing in the lineup. I mean, obviously we've gotten some of those back, but he's still filling in those gaps right now. But I mean, Nick, what did you see from the little small sample size of Betcher you got to watch in that game, if anything at all?
I wasn't able to see much out of him. I'll be honest. I feel like when we bring in these guys, and from what I understood with what Bob said, is that this guy could still go back to junior. He's an overager. He could still go back. They want to see what they could get out of him while he's up here. That's why they signed up to like a tryout edition. I feel like when we bring guys up here, they're very slow. They play very safe with Waddy's system. Like I don't think Waddy asks a lot of them to do a whole lot when they're out there. Just play smart, don't turn over the puck, see what you can do kind of thing. Like they have short leashes, I guess I should say. And like you kind of saw that with Roklovsky. Yeah, I mean, he started slow too. I mean, it was just kind of like a warm-up phase there. But Betcher, same thing. Like you're going to see a slower start out of this guy if we decide to keep him here. I don't know what they're going to do. And I think a guy that we're going to talk about in the next game kind of made a bigger case here. So, spoiler alert.
Let me ask you a question here. So just out of curiosity, like PTO, like I don't know if this is possible, but like, would it be a bad idea to send him to Toledo for a couple games?
I was just about to say that. So it's one of those things where we don't know how those contracts work, but I think it's a guy that if he fits in well enough and can play up to speed at this level, they would probably consider, hey, you're not going back to junior, you're going to go to Toledo for this season and learn the pro life down there. And as they continue to utilize Toledo more and more as a development team, I think we'll start to see things like that. In Betcher's case, I don't know. He's only played 2 games so far. He didn't play in the game in Rockford on Friday. It's one of those things where I knew, Nick, you'd say like you didn't get to pick up much on him because he hasn't done anything noticeable, which is good. He hasn't made massive mistakes where we're going, holy crap. I mean, Nick, you remember watching Finney's first couple games as a Griffin, and we sat here going, oh God, what is going on here? And now look at him, captain of Kamloops, almost leading the WHL in goals and points right now. It's absolutely insane. But at the same time, it is a lot to ask. Like, you're coming off an injury. Hey, you're going to go from the junior speed to the pro speed at, one of the best pro leagues in the world. Good luck, kid. But Dan does a good job of putting them in a position kind of where they can't fail, but they can also go in there and make a name for themselves. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing here. Do I think he goes back to junior? I don't know. It's too early to tell. It depends on how long this trial is. If they're going to go full like 10 games and see what happens, we'll know more as it goes on and we'll talk about it later. But if he does produce, Trav, I definitely could see Toledo being an option. It just all depends on how those contracts work. And we've said it a million times before. We are no experts in that. We've got to hire a contract guy at this point that can give us those answers. But if you do know that answer, let us know in the comments and we'll make sure to correct it next show. But again, from what just we've seen in him in the 2 games, I could see him playing a bottom 6 role in Toledo to learn the pro life. And I think that would be a great choice, especially on a Toledo team that could use some center depth right now.
I just look at it in a sense of like similar to Alex Doucette, like in his overage. So like with Betcher, his overage year last year, he had 96 points, and Doucette was an overage, a couple years older, albeit, but still like he was over 100-point player in junior. So just looking at a similarity style, like definitely offensively gifted. I think that this is where I'd like to see more mid-round picks start in the ECHL. Just because that you don't have any pressure if you play well. You've seen it with Tumisto. Like he came down last year off an injury, excelled in 5 games, and then was up with GR and played a prominent role. Like, what's the problem with starting these kids down here? And if they do start out well, then you can call them up. Like, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Because you would assume, like, he's been practicing with the team. He's been with the team since the start of camp.
We would assume so. He's the best kept secret in Grand Rapids at this point, knowing that I guess he's been here the whole time, from what we understand. So,
and it sounds like Gettinger's getting close too. So you're gonna have another forward coming back. Like somebody else is gonna come back down here at some point.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that more in the next game because I think, Trav, you and I were talking about something yesterday in Kalamazoo that I definitely going to bring up on the show here. But I wanted to make sure, one, that we recognize that Betcher is a player on this team now and he's played 2 games, and we'll update more as we see more out of him. Again, it's way too early to tell. Dan Watson does a really good job of really slowly introducing these kids to the pro level. And I am excited to see what he does. And I hope in either Wednesday's game or Friday's game at home, we get to see him in person so I can kind of get a better idea, because the way the Flow Sports feed works, it's really easy to lose a bottom six center on the Flow feed and not really understand where they're at in the game. And especially if they're not making mistakes that make you want to pull your hair out. So that's with that one. Last guy I think we got to talk about with this game, obviously Ville Husso, again, coming back from an injury and overperforming again, like stopping 37 to 39, getting lit up in this game. It's not something the Griffins defense has done a ton this season, and letting the goalies get lit up this bad. We know we've been outshot, but it's usually a 24 to 21 or 23 to 19 type shot deficit, not 39 to 21. But Hoos comes in, looks fabulous, and then obviously gets the call right back up to Detroit there. But Nick, what did you see from Ville in this game, especially rebounding back from an injury like this?
This was such a funny game from Ville Husso, because there was a lot of shots. Like I was paying attention to the shot counter, and I'm like 11-2 the first period. Okay. I was like 10-16. It's a little bit closer. Third period, 9-12. And I'm like, he played a good game. It was kind of quiet. And I'm like, nothing like crazy big saves, maybe like 2 or 3. Like everything was pretty much like safe saves, you know? And then at the very end of the game, I hear Bob say, he's like, yeah, he saved 37 of 39. I'm like, wow, like what? He had that many shots against him. I'm like, what? So I just didn't realize it got that out of control throughout. And maybe it was like a little bit of jet lag, a little bit of tiredness. I was like 5 hours of sleep before I got to cover this game. But it just felt like it was a very quiet game. And even talking to Elaine, like she didn't realize he was in the net. And I was like, well, this is good for Ville. Like he gets his confidence. He saves a lot of goals, or like saves a lot of shots. Doesn't give up a whole lot of goals. Again, the Griffins are two or less goals in this game given up. And I'm like, so he's like got his confidence back. He's got 2 shutouts, and he's only given up like 1 or 2 goals in the games he played. And bear with me because I was gone for a week, so I don't know what he played while I was gone. But he's played well, and so it was kind of a surprise to see him kind of fall flat up in Detroit.
I mean, look at the team you're going up against. Yeah, we could go a lot into that one here. But yeah, it was good to see Ville come back, one just from injury. Like you just hope the best for this guy, but to see him come back and have a bounce back game like that immediately is always good. We know he's going to perform at the Grand Rapids level. We don't need to talk about the Detroit level. That's a whole different storm that could cause a 45-minute derail in this podcast today. But when Ville's in Grand Rapids, he performs, and he performs really, really, really well. And like we've said all season long, if this is a situation where we're going to see Ville play a lot of games in Grand Rapids, as Griffins fans, we're excited for that because he plays so darn well down here. And I love that he's down here mentoring a guy like Sebastian Kosa, or even when Carter Gylander slips into the mix, you know, Ville is not like he's not with the team. He's still around the team. He can still give advice and share his experience. And these kids learning from a guy like him is only going to help us down the road. But it is just really good to see Ville have a bounce back game like that. But before we move on to the ad break here, any final thoughts to just button up this game from both of you here?
I got one.
Yep.
I want to talk about Nate. He's starting to find it, guys. 4 points into this game. He didn't get a point in the next game, which we'll talk about. But coming into this game, he had 4 points in his last 8 games. So he's starting to find it offensively a little bit. Just wanted to kind of point that out.
Yeah, it definitely needs to be pointed out because I think a lot of people are wanting more from him, but he's kind of delivering exactly what we expected. I mean, offensively, sure, would we like a little more? We're always going to want more out of our forwards offensively, but the kid doesn't make many mistakes on the ice. And defensively, he's one of the most sound forwards, probably outside of Dominik Shine on this team, defensively, that can go play the perfect 200-foot game. So, yeah, Nate, 4 points in 8 games here. That's a good sign. That's a really good sign. He's starting to find his way. And again, it's not like, you know, every Detroit fan immediately thought that Nate Danielson's going to be the first line center on this team, and he wasn't. He was the third line center opening night and then moved up to the second line. And that's kind of where he's settled in. But if you think about it big picture, that's exactly where we want him in Detroit, second line center, right? So he's playing that role down here, playing it well, and hopefully it all translates in the future and he just continues to grow his game. But it is really good to start seeing some consistency from this kid. It's making us all feel a little better overall. But with that, We'll send it over to the ad break here. Nick will read the ad. When we come back, we'll recap the Grand Rapids Griffins game in Rockford.
The quest for the Stanley Cup starts now. The puck's dropping on the 24-25 season. Get in on all of the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Super easy for the first timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. With the Red Wings opening the season on Thursday, October 10th, the current line is Detroit Red Wings a minus 130 on the money line. Odds and lines are subject to change between now and then. And if you are new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $200 and bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 and bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Blue Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see tkng.co/ice. Copyright NHL 2024. All rights reserved. Hockey is in the air, and the throw of the game is bringing Griffin fans from all over the state to the Van Andel Arena. So when you're looking to get tickets, your number one choice should be Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You can see players like Marco Kasper and Sebastian Cossa before they make their way to the wings, and you get the seat views before you buy, so you can see what it looks like from where you'll be sitting, which is one of my favorite things about Game Time. Curated deals make it easier to find the best price on great seats, and with the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and more. Game Time should be your number one destination for your tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Pick. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time.
And welcome back. All right, let's dive into this Friday game in Rockford. You know, the Griffins go into this one. They haven't beat Rockford in the first two tries this season. Rockford really had this team's number using their speed against this team. You go into this one kind of hoping for a change of pace, and boy, did we get one. Griffins end up winning this one 4-2, which let's start right there. We beat Rockford. That was the most important thing out of this whole game right there, and we did it. But the scoring in this one, I'll give you the rundown, and it's not who you'd expect. Unless you watch the game, then you know exactly what to expect. But no scoring in the first. Griffins outshoot Rockford in that period 10-8. No scoring in the second. Shots are tied 10-10. 2 minutes, 38 seconds into the third, Gabriel Seeger gets his second of the year, assisted by Brogan Rafferty. Followed up with, 3 minutes later, Gabriel Seeger again getting his third of the season, assisted by Antti Tuomisto and Hunter Johannes. What the heck? Gabriel Seeger just showed up out of nowhere against the Rockford Ice Hogs. Who knew that would be the guy that comes in and shuts down Rockford? What did you guys think of his performance in this game and these two goals specifically?
I want to talk about the play that Brogan Rafferty made to set up the first goal that Seager scored. So this is where playing your strong side as a defenseman makes all the world and a big difference. The puck's coming up the boards, and Rafferty, with a well-timed pinch, just slides down the boards, picks the puck up, and continues to slide down the boards, sees Seager standing there right in front of the net, makes a nice pass across, hits him right on the tape, and he, pokes it through to give him a 1-0 lead. And then Seager again, net front, with a nice redirection from I believe it was a Tuomisto shot that he was standing right in front of the goaltender, last second redirection, and gives him a 2-0 lead. But this is what you want to see from a guy with his kind of size. Parked in front of the net, stick on the ice, ready to go. He's a big body, so he's going to be tough to move out of that net front area, and he's got enough skill that, he can either redirect a puck in or just know where to place the puck on a one-timer type play. But both of them are basically redirection goals. I mean, you're just redirecting the puck, and even in the first one, it's not like he caught the puck and blew it past the goaltender. He just kind of chipped it through him, tipped it through him, whatever you want to refer to it as. But I mainly just wanted to point out the play that Rafferty made on that pinch, because that's a well-timed play by a good player. That really stood out to me.
Yeah, I mean, Rafferty sneakily got 5 points in 11 games as a defenseman here, not playing top defenseman minutes in any of these games. So credit to him there. And yeah, you want to see Seager use his size to his advantage, especially when you have a guy. I mean, Trav, you might have to correct me here. He's listed on everything I'm looking at as a left wing, and he's playing center in this game.
I think he played center some in college.
Did he was the number one center for Cornell, and he was Big Red, and he was like one of the top face-off guys too. Like that's what he was known for. So I had a good scouting report on him back a couple months ago on this guy, and I was surprised that he was down at Toledo to start. But I like, what do they say in hockey? You miss 100% of shots you don't take. Michael Scott, and then what's the other one? Go to the net, good things will happen. I mean that's what this guy did. He just went to the net and got in front of the goalie, Drew Comesso, because the first 2 periods was Drew Comesso show. Like this guy just stood on his head and like if we would have lost him, like we just got out goalie. Like there was
Again by him.
Yeah, like there were plenty of opportunities from Amadeus. Like had a couple good shots, good opportunities, and he just out of nowhere just saves these shots. And so it was just like, come on. And like at this point, like we just needed a gritty goal. And there was Gabriel Seager getting 2 dirty, gritty goals. Just that's what you needed is deflections to go in off this guy at that point. So
Look where all 3 of his goals have came from.
right in front of the net.
In front of the net. Literally,
Yeah.
all 3 of them are 2 feet in front of the net, if not right on top of the goaltender.
Yeah, it's something you love to see, especially from a guy with that size. We'll talk more about him when we fully recap the game here, but finish the scoring here. Of course, you get up 2-0 on this team. What happens? Well,
Frank Nazar.
Frank Nazar gets his 4th of the season short-handed. Griffins power play letting me down big time there. But of course, it was Frank Nazar. And then, of course, just 2 minutes later, Leveshinov, whatever, I'm
What?
not trying to. Yep, exactly. Gets his 1st of the season from Slaggert and Doc. And you go into this, and about 2 minutes later here, we're still tied 2-2. But Sheldon Dries, who loves to be the game breaker, either to get the game to overtime or to get the game winner, gets his 4th of the season from who else but Dominik Shine. And then you cap it off with an empty net goal from Josiah Didier, of course, assisted again by Dominik Shine. Another 2-point game for Shiner there, going along with if the Griffins score more than a goal in a game, Shine's on the score sheet somewhere. But in this game, Sebastian Kosa got the start. He stops 27-29, and like we mentioned, Drew Comesso at the other end, a fantastic goaltender, stops 25 for 28, shots 29-29. The Griffins failed to outshoot their opponent again in a game, but still managed to win. Power play goes 0 for 5, penalty kill goes 4 for 4. We do give up a shorthanded goal. It's all that matters to me at the end of this one is we beat Rockford. I could care less about any other stat in this game. We beat the Ice Hogs. That makes me happy. And, we've had to face Drew Comesso in all 3 games against Rockford, and Comesso has goalied us in one. The Griffins did not perform well in one. And in a game where Drew Comesso could have easily stole the show, as Nick mentioned, we were able to come away with the win. So I do want to talk more about Gabriel Seager because this is a conversation that Travis and I were having at the Toledo Wings game in Kalamazoo here, and I want to throw it out there to both of you again on the pod here. Has Seager cemented a spot on this team over a guy like an Alexander Doucette when it comes to sending guys back down to Toledo once people return from injury, looking at, Carter Mazer and Tim Gettinger? Who do you send down? Because it's probably one of the toughest decisions that I would have to make as a coach, because Seager has looked fantastic on this team so far. And based on just what we saw at training camp and the red and white game in preseason, we were surprised to see him end up in Toledo. We know the moment we told Travis Seager was coming to Toledo, he lit up like a kid in a candy store because he knew what he was getting down there. But I feel like he's kind of earned a spot on this Griffins team at this point. So I'll let you guys have that conversation as I start the chaos here.
Go ahead, Trav.
I think it's down to like 2 guys, really. Looking at it right now, looking at their current roster, like I could see Betcher, I could see Doucette, and that's kind of really it, to be honest. Like I think it's one of those 2. That's just my opinion right now. I think Seager's done plenty to stay up there. It sucks because, we could use his size. We seen firsthand yesterday what Banel is capable of down here. Like,
It's ridiculous.
he just skates around with the puck. But I think I would like to see Betcher. I think it's a good place for him personally.
I would agree with that statement.
And this is why, like, Nick, you're looking at me kind of goofy. Like, you might think I'm a little crazy.
I always look at you goofy. You're a little crazy.
Why send him back to a team where he's already shown he can put up 96 points? Make the jump to pro. You're going to be on a good team, a team that scores a lot of goals, plays a lot of offense. Why send somebody back when there's little to prove to junior? Get him comfortable in the professional level at a little bit lower level, but he's going to prepare himself for next year in GR.
I mean, I agree with that. If we include Betcher in the conversation, I agree. But we don't know what the contract stands with him. We don't know where all that fun stuff stands.
If it's not that, then it's Deuce, but that's a Red Wings decision.
It is, but at the same time, because again, I got to preface this isn't a slam at Deuce or anything like that. Deuce has performed very well in Grand Rapids so far and has exceeded my expectations already this season for what I expected him to do. Based off the small sample size we have from him in Grand Rapids last year, we know what he can do in Toledo already. We know what he would bring to that offense down there. And God, you'd throw Deuce down there in the top six. Have Bantle, Deuce, Craggs, Hawksbees, Bliss. That top six is automatically the best in the ECHL by far. But it's how do you make that decision to even send one of these guys back? Because even with Gettinger coming back, if he comes back, I couldn't send Seeger down. I couldn't do it. He's played so well with this Griffins team so far. He'd have to make some egregious mistakes in the next few games for me to be like, yep, he can go back. Like, I would be sad to see him go.
I think it would be just easier to send Seeger down just because of contracts. Then you don't have Detroit making a decision. Then it's a Grand Rapids decision because he's on a GR contract. I think that's where it's easier for them to slide him back down. But at the same time, like you just said, I mean, he's played so well. He's kind of played himself into the everyday lineup. So I don't know. I would assume as you get Gettinger back and then eventually Mazer, you're going to get somebody back. Like, it's just a matter of who. Like, you're going to get help. It's just a matter of who and from where.
It should be pointed out, too, in Thursday's game in Iowa, Betcher was slotted in the lineup. Seeger was a healthy scratch in that game, and then it was vice versa on Friday's game, with Seeger jumping in the lineup and Betcher being scratched. So, for me, I'd want to keep Seeger. When I look at this overall, it's the center depth that intrigues me the most, to have Seeger stay in Grand Rapids and have a guy that can play that role and play it very well. Deuce, I don't see him taking a lot of faceoffs. I don't see him winning a lot of faceoffs at the AHL level, unfortunately. Again, I just haven't seen the opportunity, so I could be proven wrong in one game, and that's usually what these guys do to me. I feel like they listen, go, that guy's a moron, and then go out there and make me look stupid, and I like it when they do that. But I would want to keep Seeger just for that center depth on this team, and a guy that can go out there and continue to use his size. Not that Grand Rapids doesn't have enough size already. Could Toledo use more of that size? Yes, they could. But again, Seeger's just playing really good fourth line AHL hockey right now, where it'd be really hard to go, yeah, you're going back to Toledo, kid.
So your GR contracts right now up front are Seeger, looks like Dominik Shine, Johannes. That's your GR guys. So, like, if you do send Deuce, that's a Red Wings move. That's not a GR move. So that's where I think you could still see Seeger, just because of the easy. They don't have to have Detroit make that decision. But I see your point, and I agree with you that I don't think he should come back.
That just rose another question to throw into the equation.
Which is what?
Does Hunter Johannes see any time in Toledo this year? Does Hunter Johannes get 5 games in Toledo to be qualified for playoffs if needed? Nick, I know you're shaking your head no. But if I go based on stats, Hunter's 10 games, 1 point, which we anticipated a lot more offensive upside from him. We
Yeah.
saw what he can do with his shot. We know what his playmaking ability is. We haven't seen it come to life this season in Grand Rapids so far.
I mean, I wouldn't expect to see a whole lot from him when he's got the center and right winger continuously gets swapped. So he's not building any chemistry with anybody that he's played with this season.
But Seager comes in and produces.
Yeah. So we're trying to fit Carter Mazer in and Tim Gettinger into this lineup. Is that
I'm just saying Gettinger because he's probably the closest to returning. We're hearing what week or two on him. Mazer is going to be long term. We know that for a fact.
and Betcher? We got to include these three.
And Betcher for now.
So
I'm taking Betcher out of the equation because he's on his amateur tryout. We don't know what long term looks like for him. And being on an ATO, that would probably be the easiest transition to Toledo signing him to a 1-year deal. But I again don't know what their contract and cap space situation looks like in the ECHL. Again, we're no experts in this.
you guys are
They
so
wouldn't
off.
sign him. They wouldn't sign him. I don't think that would be.
What do you mean we're off?
You guys thought too hard on this.
Why?
So
Not really.
yeah, think about this. You bring up Austin Watson to Detroit, and there's Tim Gettinger's spot right there. He was a second. So
Who's waving to come down? Who are you waving to send down?
Yeah.
They
Oh,
have
you
a
just-
full roster.
yeah, at the
Correct.
moment, but give him a minute. But you're gonna bring Watson
So-
up.
Hold on. We're talking with the situations we have in front of us, not hypotheticals of someone getting traded in Detroit or anything like that. With what we have in front of us, and what we have in front of us is Tim Gettinger and potentially Carter Mazer going to return to this team within the next month. Are you going to sit guys in the press box? Are you going to have Seager sitting in the press box? Are you going to have Hunter Johannes sitting in the press box to fit guys into the lineup? Or would you send them down to Toledo, qualify them for playoff time with Toledo, and have these guys playing meaningful games? And they're all young. You got to remember, they all still need playing time to continue to develop. Like, it's not a slam at any player. We're going to hit a roster logjam here in Grand Rapids really quickly.
Yeah,
That's
they're
what
gonna
you
end up.
think.
Nick, you're hoping and praying for a trade that most of the time isn't gonna happen.
I didn't say anything about a trade. I'm just thinking injuries, flu. I think you're gonna rotate probably Hunter Johannes up in the press box throughout. And nothing against Hunter. I like his game. You want to keep Doucette here, and I think Seager's found a spot if he continues to perform and play the way he does.
But the point of it is you don't want Hunter sitting in the press box. That's not where we want him.
Not to mention, Toledo's already got 3 forwards hurt right now, so they are short on forwards.
So then you said Deuce. Unfortunately, you said Deuce down. I think because Seager is playing well. He's on a GR contract. He plays center, which
So does Doucette.
Okay, but Gettinger doesn't play center.
Right. I'm not saying no.
But would you
Gettinger
rather have
wouldn't come
Deuce play
down.
center, or would you rather have Seager play center?
I mean, stylistically, you're gonna have Seager play center.
So you're gonna keep
Correct.
Seager here. You're gonna move Doucette down, or
That's-
put him in the press box. Which unfortunately,
I still
That's not
think
the
it's-
option.
Yeah, it's better to have him play games, dude. Like he's
over
a young
Tim
player.
Gettinger, the king of Ohio.
No, Doucette is gonna play in Toledo for
That's what we're
Gettinger to
saying.
play in GR.
I thought you guys were arguing that you don't want him in Toledo because he's already outperformed at Toledo.
No, we're saying that Toledo is gonna end up with somebody because GRs are gonna have a log jam here at some point.
Toledo is probably going to end up with 2 guys at this point. If Mazer and Gettinger are back, Toledo gets 2 back. There's no way they don't. They'd have to figure that out because again, it's just this, with
They'd
the
have
way
They'd have 15 forwards at full health in GR.
with the way this organization's running things right now, the clear cut answer is guys are going to get games. If they're guys that they view as a potential or they have potential future in this organization, they're going to play them. Whether that means we know what Deuce can do in Toledo and he's going to go down there and do it in Toledo, great. Hunter, he's not going to sit in the press box. The organization loves this kid.
He's not
They
going to
want
Toledo.
him playing games. I
I
still-
doubt he does too.
I still think it's a possibility if you're gonna put Hunter in the lineup over a Tim Gettinger who can produce at a much higher rate than him and play the physical game as well.
No, he'll sit.
You're not gonna sit him. I find it hard to believe that these guys would sit. That's just where I'm at. GR has been running very low healthy scratch numbers for every game, besides guys that are injured. I think they're gonna carry that forward, and these guys are gonna keep playing. So if I'm going to make my prediction, Doucette is going to be in Toledo, unfortunately for him. I mean, not unfortunately. He loves playing in Toledo and can go down there and tear it up. And Walleye fans are probably clamoring for that kid to come back down there and do what he did. My God. Again, think of him being the top 6 that they already have up there. It's insane. I don't see a world right now where Seeger comes back down just based on how he's playing. Again, he could change our opinion in the next 4 games here and make some mistakes where we go, oh God, Siegs, what are you doing? But he's played so well.
Do you think that Gadget's going to be back in December or the end of November?
End of November.
Okay, so here is the schedule for December.
We will see Getz before the Teddy Bear Toss game.
For December, you have 3 games each week up until Christmas. So I think you're going to rotate through the press box. You're not going to send them to Toledo and just have them drive all the way back to GR or fly out to Texas.
I mean, why wouldn't they? They've made our goalies do it left and right.
Well, goalies are a little different.
Not really. You've had goalies driving back down and playing the same day.
Yeah, goalies, you want more stability.
Like I said, the organization's made it clear. They want these guys playing games. They don't care where it's at as long as they're playing meaningful hockey games where they can go show and produce and develop.
Tell that to
all of
Gage
these
Alexander.
players... That's a whole nother topic for another time. But all of these guys are guys that organization really likes. Again, Deuce is a guy they took a flyer on, signed him out of junior, and want to see what he could do. And I think he could make a long career of himself in this organization with the way he plays. Seeger, again, is a guy we signed, took a flyer on. Here he is. Hunter took a flyer on him as well. Like, these are guys they want playing as much as possible. I don't see them rotting in the press box. You can see him for 1 game maybe, but with that rotation, I don't think you'll see anything crazy like that. If you want to talk about a team that should be rotating players, it would probably be Toledo with their insane schedule the way it starts off this season.
And the injuries.
And those are 2 really key injury pieces they're missing right now, potentially.
Well, technically 3.
Correct. I mean, you're talking about Conlon Keenan, you're talking about Mitchell Lewandowski, and you're talking, Bliss has been in and out of games recently. So it's going to be interesting to watch. I'm glad it sparked a 20-minute conversation about it because it's fun. But at the same time, it's going to be really interesting. And I just, again, don't envy anybody in this organization that's got to make these choices because these guys are the guys in the bottom 6 are making discussions really hard, which is a real positive to see our bottom 6 continue to do well in Grand Rapids. That's not what you would expect us to have a lot of conversation about this year, but I don't see, besides Austin Watson getting called up to Detroit for injuries randomly here and there, I don't see anybody else that's going to jump in that conversation unless all hell breaks loose in Detroit. I mean, Sheldon Dries had his 1 call up for a game that he didn't even see the ice in Detroit. So you're going to see a lot of talk between Toledo and Grand Rapids and what this roster looks like just because of the amount of players they do have. And guys forcing the hand of conversations because of their production, which again, great problem to have, honestly.
Which I think we know it's going to be forwards that are going up and down, forwards and goaltenders. The only defenseman that's going to go up and down would be Chaz, and until GR runs into that issue on the D end, he's going to stay here.
I thought we were about to be really close with how many guys we were seeing drop like flies there for a second. I'm glad we didn't see that, but yeah, it's going to get interesting. It's going to get really interesting as guys start to get healthier and as long as everybody else maintains being healthy at the same time. So enough about that. Back to guys that performed in this Rockford game. That is what we were talking about here. Obviously, we talked Seeger. We've talked Shine already, gave him his flowers here. I do want to talk, though, about Sheldon Dries. We've talked about him a little bit in past episodes here. It's a veteran player that we were waiting to see adjust to this system. And I think he's fully adjusted based off the production we're seeing as of recently. He came back from his little 1-game call up to Detroit and has been on fire ever since. And for me personally, I just love his play style. It's a great 200-foot game with a huge offensive upside. And his ability to set up plays or generate plays from almost nothing has really surprised me this year. And again, we knew when he came in that he was going to be able to produce. He had a ton of points in his previous years in the American League, including 52 points in 55 games last year in Abbotsford. We're sitting here right now, 5 points in 10 games with him. And in he got 2 points in his last 2 games. Just overall thoughts so far on Dries' performance from your guys' perspective?
He's a hustler. Like he's just all over the ice. Just hounding pucks. He's like Dominik Shine out there. Like those two players just complement each other so well. And if you look at the stat sheet, there's only one guy above the two of them, and it's Amadeus Lombardi. Like him and Shine both have 4 goals. Shine and Dries. I mean, they're both right there. It's just they're clicking. The chemistry is there. Dries is Snively is not too far behind him either. So that whole line is starting to click. And I hope the momentum continues throughout.
Yeah. I mean, again, you talk about a big absence in Carter Mazur, which we saw in training camp. The chemistry between Mazur, Dries, and Snively was off the charts. It was fantastic. You throw a guy like Dom Shine in, and they continue to produce like that. And, Snively's catching up on the goals, but he's got 5 assists. He's third in the point, or tied for third in points on the team overall with Austin Watson right now. And again, like you said, Nick, that chemistry, just the top 6 seems so interchangeable right now that all the guys work so well together that really put in any situation, they're going to go out there and produce. But the thing is that Dries is producing in crucial times in the game with game winners, game tying goals, and just generating and being that spark when the team needs it the most, which when I started the season, I knew he was going to produce, but I didn't think he'd be that guy that's bailing us out constantly. And I've been pleasantly surprised.
I mean, this line isn't as exciting as last year's top line of Mazur, Berggren, and Casper, but I mean, it's going to be a sneaky good one. This is what I expected, to be honest, is like the veteran leadership. Like he's going to step up when he needs to, and he's going to perform when he needs to. If the team needs somebody to go towards, he's going to be the one to drive that between him and Shine. Like it's a toss up, but who's going to get it? And I think it's kind of maybe a little competitive fun between the two of them, maybe. I don't know. We'll have to ask him this week.
Yeah, honestly. But that is all the guys that we wanted to pick from this game specifically, unless you guys have anything else to put a button on this game.
Josiah Didier's empty netter from the other side of the ice. Like, just...
I do love those. You always love an other side of the ice empty netter, especially when it comes from Dids. It's always good to see him find the back of the net here and there. We know that's not his role, but when he does, we always get excited for him. And I know he gets excited too. So, nope, that's a good way to end that game on. Now, like we said, the Griffins have some games coming up here. They've got Rockford coming to town again on Wednesday for our school day game. So we'll be there. Well, I'll be there at the arena bright and early with all the screaming children. I've already got my Advil put in my media bag for that game. And then we've got the Chicago Wolves coming to town Friday night for our military appreciation game. The Griffins will be rocking their camo jerseys. It's the first jersey auction of the season. And then the boys go on the road Saturday to Milwaukee. As it stands right now, the Griffins are sitting second in the Central Division with 12 games played, 8 wins, 3 losses, and 1 overtime loss, 17 points overall. And our goal differential sitting at 31 goals for, 25 against. What I want to pose a question to you guys here is we're 12 games in, right? It's still very early in the season when you're talking overall season, but what has surprised you the most with a pleasant surprise this season so far for the Griffins? And then what has disappointed you the most? Let's start with what's pleasantly surprised you so far. I'm going to go to you first, Nick.
I would say the record, honestly. I was pretty harsh on the defense in the offseason. I did not think that they were going to perform, and I think that was going to be their biggest trouble. And honestly, because I might have to go back and listen to some of the episodes, but I think I was told that the forwards were going to help pick up the defensive end in the defensive zone. And we haven't really seen a whole lot of that. We've been outshot every game, which is surprising to me as well. And the goalies have just really stepped up. Like those are kind of the surprising takeaways for the first 12 games. Now, granted, I didn't get to see 4 of them, so 4 or 5.
That's also true. You're missing quite a few there. And I know, Trav, same thing for you. But what surprised you so far about the Griffins this season?
Ammo and Kosa. The next steps in their development. That's the biggest thing I've got so far through 12 games.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I think we all kind of knew Ammo was going to have a breakout season. Kosa was always the question mark of, does he pick up where he left off? Does he just carry on as he was last season? And he's definitely carried on and picked up right where he left off. Ammo has found his confidence. He's playing and producing at an incredible level, even though he's still playing third line minutes most of the time, except for one game where we saw him bump to the top there. But yeah, those two are still doing fantastic this year, and every Red Wings fan should be excited, especially about Amadeus performing at the rate he is right now. You know, for a 4th round pick to generate as much conversation around himself as he has, that's a super positive sign for the entire organization overall. Nick, you look like you had something you wanted to add.
I'm just surprised because I was like, those were things that I was expecting, was Amadeus to have a breakout year and Sebastian Costa to have a breakout year.
I wasn't sure with Ammo still, to be honest. Like, because I didn't see it firsthand last year. So for me, like,
That's
it's
true.
my first year seeing it. Like, and like, you got to remember too, like, he was playing a very sheltered role last year. So to see that expand, it doesn't mean that you're gonna just come in and tear the doors down. You know, like, you still got to go out and do it. So to see him taking that next step, that's a big important thing that he's doing. So for me, that's what stood out for him. And for Kosa, like, we've seen it I've seen it twice. Like, beginning of the year, it's kind of rocky. It's kind of like he's some highs, some lows, and to have him come out and just pick right up where he left off at the end of last year, I think that was the biggest thing that I wanted to see if it could happen, and he's done it. And I think he's really kind of solidified himself as like a top goaltending prospect in the NHL, like throughout the NHL. And well, I should say the AHL, but for NHL teams, he's probably a top 2 prospect right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Especially with like I think it was you that said this, Travis, at training camp. He was probably the most comfortable goaltender out of every Detroit Red Wings goaltender that was on the ice that we saw in the red and white game. He was the most calm, most comfortable on the ice. And, you know, you look at seasons past and training camps and development camps, those weren't his best performances. And for him to pick up literally where he left off in Grand Rapids last year, go into training camp, just show calm and poise in the net, just playing his game, and then just go into the season playing already more games and, you know, we might have thought he was going to play off rip with this team, especially with having a guy like Ville Husso in the mix now. You're seeing Kosa play a ton of games, and he's still just consistently good. And consistency was the biggest thing that the guy wanted to work on going into this season. So he's delivering on what he's wanted to do development-wise, and like you said, he's definitely solidified himself in that top prospect conversation when it comes to goaltenders. And I mean, the Detroit Red Wings themselves probably have the best goalie prospect pool in the NHL at this point. When you look at guys like Trey Augustine in the mix, you got Carter Gylander surprising a lot of people with his performance so far. We've got a lot of positive things happening in the goaltending side. And for me, myself, you know, I'll piggyback off of Nick, where I'm most impressed with our record. When you look at the stats, you look at the goals for, you look at the power play, you know, the record that we have just shows the resiliency of this team, which the resilience isn't a surprise to me. That's just Dan Watson's coaching style as a whole. There is just resilient hockey teams. He's always had that. But seeing us be 8-3-1 with some of the performances they've put up offensively in some of these games, it is very impressive. And it's just overall team effort when it comes to good defense, making sure the goalies are, you know, comfortable in the game and making sure that they're not getting too many dangerous opportunities against them, I think is the biggest thing. The Griffins have given up a lot of shots, sure, but not a lot of dangerous opportunities, only in the games that they've lost. And heck, one of those games they lost, that overtime loss there, they should have won that game. Like, that's that one in Hartford where they should have come out with the win, but you go down a man short midway through the game on the forward side of things. Losing Hunter in that game, it definitely played a big role, especially at the end of a long road trip like that. So I want to pivot the question though. Nick, what's the most surprising thing on the disappointing side for you so far this season?
Disappointing side? Gotta say the power play, right? I mean, it was an issue all last year. We could not get our foot going on it, and then to run it back the same year, the same time this year, the same percentage, I guess. It's just, I think that's the most surprising of the disappointing side.
Yeah. I mean, the power play is currently sitting at 10.6%. It's the 28th best power play in the AHL right now out of 32 teams. It is definitely something that you'd want to see more of this season. And, I'm going to throw it to Trav for his point here. Maybe he has the same point, but it is the thing I am most disappointed in too. You see flashes of it getting good, and you peel it back. Yeah, they're missing, or they've been missing key pieces on the power play. But at the same time, in this league, you should be used to that and have a prepared plan to adjust to it. And I'm just not seeing it. And it's not a lack of opportunities anymore either. We've had 47 power play opportunities this season so far, which you go back to last season, Nick. You and I were banging the table going, what's going on here? Are the refs not just calling penalties against the other teams when the Griffins play them? I swear when we were at the end of November, we might have had maybe 20 opportunities by that point.
Yeah, we had the lowest
47
amount.
opportunities, 11th most opportunities in the league. So we're not getting the real-time test anymore. We've had it, and we're still seeing it be extremely inconsistent, and it is raising a lot of question marks because the guys that are out there on the power play, they should be producing. Granted, we have played 3 games against Rockford, and their penalty kill is really good against us. They play a really aggressive, fast-paced penalty kill, but at the same time, you just hope to see more. But Travis, what are you disappointed about so far this season in these 12 games?
I forgot to point one guy out on the positive side, and that's Shai Buyam.
Oh yeah,
I thought he's been really good too. But as far as like maybe just a little like disappointment, I would say maybe just like the slow start point production wise from Elmer. I mean,
yeah.
you kind of expected a bigger year for him to start. Now, there's a long way to go, and he's done a lot of good things, like we've said multiple times. It's just the points aren't there yet. So I was looking at maybe him, and then just the unluckiness of injuries, like Carter and Walleye, like 2 guys that you wish were in the lineup every game, but it's just part of the game.
Yeah. And hopefully we see Wallander back here pretty soon. And again, Gettinger's skating. He's 1 to 2 weeks out, is what they've said multiple times in the broadcast. It is a question that I'll make sure to ask this week in media, because I know I forgot last time to ask for injury updates, but we'll get the word from Dan Watson as much as he'll give us, which won't be much. We'll say that now. But getting those guys back would be a huge boost to this team, especially a guy like Carter Mazur, like such an energy guy on this team, such a fun player to have out there on the ice. You could definitely feel the absence of him out there, but a lot of guys have stepped up in big ways. So it's not, something to be super disappointed about. There's not much besides the power play and the couple little things there's not much to be disappointed about in this season. This is one of the best starts in franchise history still, and to pick out things to be disappointed about is no shot at the team or the guys or anything. They've played an incredible start to the season with the hand they've been dealt. We just, you're always looking for more, right? Nick and I have worked in our careers always looking for more. Yeah, as soon as you hit that goal, it's never good enough, right? You got to get more.
Just one more. I want to add the forwards in here. Just one more thing that I'm a little disappointed. Like just the goal scoring, the shots on that. But we're winning. I just don't know how sustainable this is. Playing the style we are.
Are we about to go down this road?
No, we're not going down this road. No,
we've gone down this path quite a bit.
I forbid going down that road on the show, especially an hour and 19 into the recording.
Not tonight. Tomorrow.
But, point-wise, you got to look at this, too. The only guys in the team that don't have at least 1 point in 12 games is going to be, Betcher, and he's only played 2. Trenton Bliss, he played 2. Carson Bantle played 3. Emil Viro, 12 games, no points.
But he's been solid defensively. Like
he is sitting at a -3 right now. That's the only other thing I'll throw out there stat wise for you.
But I sometimes your plus minus gets overinflated though.
Oh, 100%. 100%. It's the most overrated stat in the world.
The only thing I think that the one play that I've seen from him this year, it's like, what are you doing? Was the 2-on-1 where he gave him the middle of the ice. Like that's the only downfall that's really stood out for me. Other than that, I don't think he's played that bad myself.
I mean, outside of that, if you set the bar at guys that have played 5 games or more, You look at in the 2-point category, you got Carter Mate. Oh, sorry, not Carter Mate. Alexander Doucette has 2 points. Elmer in 12 games has 2 points. William Lagesson has 1 point in 8 games.
Whoa. Lagesson, though, he is very solid
been fantastic.
defensively. Yeah.
Fantastic defensively.
Don't throw him in that bucket.
1 point in 8 games, but he's a +5 on the team right there. There you go, Nick.
I've been really impressed with his game. I really like this guy.
Tori Dello, 1 point in 7 games. Vollander, 1 point in 5 games only. And Hunter Johannes, 1 point in 10 games, which is probably the most surprising one for me, outside of, Elmer only having 2 in 12. But I'm pretty sure Elmer still leads the team in shots as well. Yeah, he does. He's got 33 shots on goal. Next closest guy's got 24.
His shooting percentage is just going to be so brutal this year.
It is.
The floodgates are going to open. They're all going to go in.
They have to, right? They have to for this. Like, we've said it before. He's doing everything right. He's playing great hockey. It's just not finding its way onto the score sheet. I wonder how many, because his 2 points have, I believe, been secondary assists. How many third assists does he have in this team so far this season? I wish I could find a way to track it. It'd be impossible. You can't even get face-off percentages in the American Hockey League, but he's doing a lot of right out there. I mean, it's got to happen for him, but if it doesn't, it'll be the biggest question mark around the whole season. If it continues all season long and he's shooting the puck and playing like this and he's not finding the point side of things, it'll probably be the most confusing stat line I've ever seen in this team. Well, that does wrap up our recap of the Griffins' last couple of games there. Again, like we said, the boys are back in town Wednesday at the school day game, Friday against Chicago Wolves, and then on the road in Milwaukee. But we do have one last thing to wrap this episode up with, and it's a thank you from Nick and myself here to Mr. Travis, because Travis hooked us up. Some of you might have noticed already in this recording, Travis is wearing branded gear for the Hockeytown West podcast. I'm wearing this beautiful branded hoodie here. Nick didn't get his stuff yet. I've got it. I've held it hostage until he apologizes in person to the Griffins defense for his preseason comments. But we've got Toledo Walleye branded stuff for us. Well, that our logo in the Walleye colors, the logo in the black and red, as you guys have seen for a long time. Travis did this all on his own for us out of his pocket. We have to thank Travis for this because it's something I know Nick and I have wanted since we started the show, really, with something with the logo on it to wear to the games. But now doing media post games wearing our logo and stuff just feels a lot more professional and a lot cooler. And Travis, we can't thank you enough for this, dude. This stuff is sick. And there's also a special shout out as well to a former guest of the show, Mr. Ian Duncan, as well, for helping you guys linked up together to make this all possible with his, I believe, I don't want to say this wrong, but it is the company that he's a part of that produces this type of stuff. Correct, Travis?
Yeah, I think he's like affiliated with it, helps him out or something like that. It's Company Casuals. They did an amazing job. And so fast. Like they sent me the template like Monday and it was on my door Friday. So it was really cool.
Insane. But the quality is incredible. The logo looks so good stitched on this stuff. I mean, for me, it's just kind of like a cool moment for me because I designed the logo by hand for us, and seeing every time I see our logo printed on something, I feel good about it because it looks so clean. But dude, you doing this for us, one, something you didn't have to do, two, just thank you.
Oh, it's no big deal. I mean, you guys let me join a part of this, so it's like the one thing I could at least do to pitch in. Like, I mean, I know you guys had like startup costs and stuff like that, so it's just something for you guys as like a thank you, more or less than anything.
Yeah, you guys look sick doing media interviews down at Toledo and Kalamazoo wearing your braided gear. And I'm just like, where's mine? And then I hear, like Brandon calls me yesterday on the way back from Kalamazoo. And he's like, oh, it's so nice. And then you call me 20 minutes later. You're like, it's so nice. The hoodies are so warm. And then I get on today and it's like, they're so good. I'm like, I'm over here freezing. I want my hoodie.
Oh, you'll get it. I will deliver it to you tomorrow. But at the same time, again, dude, thank you. This stuff is so cool. And yeah, this hoodie is easily one of the most comfortable hoodies in my collection. Now at this point, I've lived in it all day while I worked from home and did all of my work calls wearing our branded gear, which I'm sure the bosses weren't super happy about, but oh well, they can deal. But yeah, dude, just thank you. It's just another step in the road for us. And now we've got a partner that we can get gear made, and it is definitely something that we'll be talking about amongst each other here to get some gear out to the rest of you wonderful listeners and give you guys opportunities to either win it or purchase it. We got to look through all those details. There's a lot more when it comes to that when we start putting logos on shirts and hats and other things like that, but it is now something that is possible, all thanks to Travis and Company Casuals and everyone else. So this stuff's awesome. Thank you again, man.
Yeah, thank you, Travis. Thank you, Ian Duncan, too, getting this all together and as fast as you guys did. Like, it's something I wasn't expecting, and it's going to be cool wearing it, and especially doing media, and people will know, hopefully tune in.
Yeah, right. It's just nice to finally have that. Like, it means so much to us, honestly. So thank you. But of course, as always, we got to thank everyone for tuning into the show, right? It's time to wrap this thing up. So thank you, everyone, for tuning into another episode of the Hockeytown West podcast. We appreciate you all. And, of course, as always, thank you to our sponsors. We got DraftKings and Game Time, and, of course, the Hockey Podcast Network for being fantastic partners with us. But, of course, the long-standing sponsor of the show, Everything Hockey Clothing Company. Make sure you head over to everythinghockey.com. Use code WEST to pick up a few hoodies, shirts, whatever you want. They just launched a bunch of new cool stuff on there. Definitely recommend going and check it out. And they've been doing some crazy hoodie sales already this year. And I know as we get closer to Black Friday, I'm sure we'll see more. So pay attention to that. Head over there, though. Make sure you use code WEST. It helps out the show. But, of course, another way to support the show is over on Patreon. Thank you to all of our Patreons. Another way to support the show is, of course, on Patreon. Head over to patreon.com/HockeytownWest podcast. Check out the tiers there. Join some of the lovely people who have already supported the show on there. And those lovely people are...
We've got Alan, Lori, Derek, Sleazer, Randy, Zick. We've got 2 new Patreons this week with Griffin Davis, and we've got a big new follower, one of our favorites, Elaine Shercliffe.
Thank you all for supporting the show over there. I know we haven't been able to post enough over there. Well, at least we don't feel like it's enough. We want to give you guys more, but we do have some fun stuff in the work, and we got to get a live stream scheduled for you guys over there for a game coming up here. With our work schedules, it's been crazy, but we will figure out a game here soon to do that. So pay attention over there to the Patreon feed. We'll post all the updates there. But again, like we said, if you want to support the show, head over to patreon.com/HockeytownWest podcast. Check out the tiers. They're cheap. We make it as affordable as possible. We know things are expensive in the world today, but we want to bring you guys some bonus content over there. Reminder that all the unedited episodes go on to that platform as well. And trust us, there's some doozies in there with some edits that have been cut out. So definitely would head over there and check it out. We appreciate everyone that's already supported. And if you're thinking about joining, we appreciate you as well. But with that, boys, let's wrap this thing up. Thank you all again. We will talk to you all on Thursday, but until then, go Griffins, go Walleye. We haven't heard this for a week.
Love you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hockeytown West podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at HockeytownWPod and your host, Nick at GR Hockey Guy and Brandon at BrandonGR Hockey.